Rayhan's React. Welcome back. I have a couple of few subscribers. I'm happy for that. But I'm asking all the people who are here watching the videos, I'm asking you guys to help me grow the channel. I would gladly appreciate that. So we're here with Pierce Morgan in this panel. We got um, them talking about blood on their hands. Charlie Kirk and Jeffree Star and Nancy Mace. Let's check this out, guys. See what they're talking about.
Joining me on the panel to discuss all this is Riley Gaines, the host of Gaines for Girls on Outkick.com, Gillian Michaels, host of Keeping It Real, Brian Shapiro, host of Pushing the Limits, and Lucas Bain, better known as the amazing Lucas. Okay, well, welcome to all of you. Brian Shapiro, I was sickened by what happened to Charlie Kirk. I think we can probably all agree, I hope we can all agree, it was sickening, although I had Destiny on the other night who couldn't bring himself to condemn it because Donald Trump hadn't said the right thing for him, which I think is a lamentable piece of moral cowardice. So let me just start by asking you, I presume you condemn and were horrified by what happened to Charlie Kirk?
Absolutely. I was on the air, Pierce, when it all happened. I got emotional. The first thing I thought about were his kids and his family. This is not only bad for Charlie Kirk, obviously, and bad for his family. It's bad for America. And I also feel for everybody that was traumatized, that was there that day, that had to see that. Now, with that being said, of course, I didn't agree with basically anything that Charlie Kirk stands for. But with that being said, anybody that's celebrating his death, I think that's despicable and it's disgusting. And I've called that out, and I've been very consistent on my opinions since day one. If there's one thing that me and Charlie Kirk certainly agreed on, it's civil discourse and having political debate. I enjoy doing this show, Pierce, and I enjoy having respectful discussions with people that I disagree with. So this is a horrible, horrible situation. We could never condone political violence, no matter what side of the aisle it comes from.
Why have so many people on the far left, the woke left, been so brazen in their gleeful celebration of what happened to Charlie Kirk?
Well, my response to that, number one, is I'm not on the far left, so I certainly don't speak for them. But there's people on both sides of the aisle. I know Republicans don't want to hear that, but there are crazy lunatics on both sides of the aisle that celebrate really horrible things that happen to people in America. I don't agree with them. And if you're on the far celebrate anybody getting murdered, then there's something wrong with you. And I don't feel bad for any of those people that were fired for celebrating his death. I think it's disgusting.
That's definitely true. They're on both sides.
Now, if you're just talking about him and saying, well, he wasn't a good guy, here's why I didn't like him, here are some of his quotes that he said in the past, I don't think you should be fired for that. I think there's a way to call out political violence and say Charlie Kirk didn't deserve this. I feel for his family, but I didn't like Charlie Kirk and I didn't like what he stood for. I think you could make both points respectfully.
Okay, Lucas Bean, I've been pointed out to me that you've posted some messages about Charlie Kirk on your Instagram, which we're going to show here. One is a post that's a parody of a Jubilee debate. I'm doing one of these myself soon, titled Charlie Kirk versus Bullet. Can one bullet to the neck outsmart one conservative? Well, that was a short watch. Number two is a mocked up promotion poster called Kirk and Twerk at Neck of the Woods and hashtagged both Charlie Kirk and his widow. And the third was an image of a sunrise titled God Works in Mysterious Ways with the hashtag.
Lucas, he's a pretty funny guy, you know. I take in his channel a couple of times. He's interesting. He's always have some factual stuff that he's saying as well. He's a very good debater. Very smart guy. I'm impressed by his knowledge and his intelligence. Yeah.
Charlie Kirk killing and praying hands as an emoji. And you're laughing as I show these. Why do you find this funny?
Well, let me just say that I actually am a big advocate for dark humor. And I happen to have gotten a bit of a taste of that over the last, I don't know, maybe decade or so when it came to the right and their memes of George Floyd. Happy birthday being sober for 5 years. When it came to their memes of Breonna Taylor, when it came to their memes of Trayvon Martin, the Trayvon challenge, right? When it came to their memes of Tamir Rice. So I don't know what the issue is. I think I'm engaging in the freedom of speech that the right has been advocating for these last 10 years and mocking and making light of Black death, something that Charlie Kirk himself did time and time again. As a matter of fact, I would argue that if Charlie Kirk, instead of focusing his time on Black culture and Black on Black crime, if he had spent a modicum of his time focusing on the white youth, that perhaps he would still be with us today.
Are you pleased he's dead?
No, absolutely not.
So how did you feel about
But
his murder?
I don't think.
How did you feel about his murder?
How do I feel about his murder?
Yeah.
Well, I think a quote by a great author sums up the sentiment of millions of Americans around the world, and that is, some cause happiness wherever they go, others when they go. And I think that's a sentiment that is palpable amongst many Americans around the world due to the hate and vitriol and bile that Charlie Kirk sowed. So I think there was a pastor
just to be clear, unless I misheard you, then you are happy he died.
No, I don't think that there are some people who have caused harm and death and turmoil to other groups of people, such as Charlie Kirk, whether it's Black people, whether it's trans people.
No, I heard the quote.
But
just to be clear, you said that the quote ends in that their death brings happiness, but you've denied that you were happy. But when you tell me a quote,
I don't disagree.
When you tell me a quote like that, I presume from that quote you're implying that actually you are happy he died because he deserved it. He had it coming.
No, not at all. I don't think those are ever words that I've ever mentioned verbatim ever. I think there is a sentiment that when someone who lives their life in evil and wickedness, according to the scripture, the power of life and death is in your tongue. And the hate and the vile and the venom that he spewed, I don't know what to tell you. As the scripture says, as he professed, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I think his focus should have been on a community that, clearly is in problem. That I find it interesting that there's more scrutiny on people who may make memes that they've done of George Floyd and other Black victims than on the white male youth that did this tragedy, as some would call it.
Why would you be offended about the memes to people like George Floyd, which I found contemptible at the time, if they're the same ones that you're talking about? Why would you profess to be offended by those if you're quite happy to do the same kind of thing yourself?
I think the point that I'm making by the means that I'm putting out, which clearly has caused outrage and triggering, I find it a bit hypocritical that the people for years who said fuck your feelings are now overwhelmed with feelings at the moment. But the point that I was making was to point out the hypocrisy that the right has on a variety and myriad of issues, as we just saw with Pam Bondi on the freedom of speech. I think the issue is that they have scapegoated people like Pam Bondi for what is the crime of Donald Trump. The same thing they did with Anthony Fauci. We saw this when it came to the Second Amendment. They banned bump stock ban. They had a bump stock ban under Donald Trump while they were fear-mongering about Biden take away your guns. But as we saw, there was no outrage, there was no protest, and we come to find out that it was unconstitutional. So I think this hypocrisy is ubiquitous within the right, and I think my memes expose that hypocrisy.
And what about your own personal humanity? I mean, hashtagging his widow in a mocked-up promotion poster of Kirk and Twerk at Neck of the Woods. How do you justify targeting? Hang on. How do you justify?
Which is targeting. I think it's more of a strategic.
Women in the women's pool. It was clearly grotesquely unfair, unequal, and actually dangerous. And we saw the same thing happen in a boxing ring in Paris in the Olympics.
I would like to be able to
and
speak for myself,
for Riley to be condemned by you,
that'd be super cool.
For Riley to be condemned by you because she doesn't also talk about other issues is absurd. Anyway,
first of all, that's not even true.
You know what? We'll come back to this. I'm just going to hold the panel here for a moment. A brief timeout. I've been joined by Nancy Mace. Nancy, welcome back to Uncensored Opinion. But there's a lot of insanity flying around at the moment. One of which is the utterly appalling spectacle of so many on the left openly, brazenly, proudly celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. How have we got here as a society?
Well, it's insane. And you can just see in the previous debate, you saw two grown men, Democrat men, screaming, yelling on your program at two women. Riley Gaines is one of the brightest, smartest, youngest minds fighting for what she believes in. And we want to encourage that, not discourage it. I don't want to discourage anyone out there to prevent them from speaking up by getting yelled at. I was yelled out yesterday in front of Don Lemon at the steps of the Capitol, and all we want to do, I'm a rape survivor. All I want as a rape victim is to ensure that men aren't in my bathroom or Riley's bathroom or in the shower next to us. That is dangerous and it's uncalled for. But to see those men on your program yelling at the women who are just sane and normal manner, trying.
Guys, do you think the guys were actually yelling or they were just trying to make their point across? I find it disingenuous to say that the guys were yelling at the ladies. They weren't yelling, they were actually trying to get their point across. They were it's a debate. And things do get heated at times and people do elevate their voice. So, I don't think it's fair to say they were yelling at the
Trying to have a
ladies
colloquy,
trying to make
trying to have a
themselves look
national
more or something.
conversation, and they're being screamed at. That's how we got here. And until the left and until the Democrat Party acknowledges their role in this, it's not going to get better. And I have to tell you, it's terrifying right now to be a conservative. I am carrying my 6 Sauer P365 everywhere I go. I have armed guards everywhere I go. I can't even go to the grocery store alone anymore. I can't even walk my dog without a gun because I have so many on the left, Democrats, a lot of transgenders who are emailing, calling, trying to show up at my office, threatening to kill me, my children, my family, my elderly parents, the father of my children. And I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not going to be terrified. And I'm going to figuratively fight back, figuratively push back, and protect my safety. Today, I'm going to lead a floor debate against Ilhan Omar. Lucas was asking about a prominent Democrat celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. They're everywhere. But let's start with Ilhan Omar, who's right down the hall from me right now. I'm in Congress at the Capitol, who celebrated the murder and political assassination of Charlie Kirk by saying that people who were mourning his death were full of shit, excuse my language, but no, and is posting content celebrating his murder, calling Charlie Kirk a terrorist. I can't even with these people because they just won't tell the truth. And like, I love having a debate. I love coming on and having a conversation, even when we disagree, Pierce. But there's never anything ill or negative or like, I don't want to bring harm on anybody, but we have to tell the truth. And how do you unite with people who refuse to tell the truth, who continue to lie? I don't know how you continue to have a conversation with these people. We have to shun them.
Do you have to be careful? I watched Pam Bondi trying to explain that hate speech is something that the Attorney General believed should be pursued with the full force of the law. And I recoiled from that, as did many on the right, because actually the First Amendment protects hate speech. It doesn't protect incitement to violence or acts of violence, but you can say hateful things and be protected under the First Amendment. And it was pretty staggering to hear an Attorney General who didn't seem to realise that. Some have criticised you because you have a hotline. You've encouraged people to call in. And, if people are saying bad things about Charlie Kirk and so on, there will be people on the left going, well, this is just complete hypocrisy, because really what you're operating with this is a form of the very cancel culture that you and others on the right have always professed to hate. What do you say to that?
Well, this is a cancel culture, and I have voted and I've supported legislation that protects the freedom of speech, that protects the First Amendment. I've been out there on the Epstein files too, protecting survivors, by the way. There are Republicans out there who are very vocal, like myself. But free speech has consequences. And I'll quote Ilhan Omar, who tweeted that you have the right to say anything you want. You have the right to those opinions, but there are consequences. And if you are around children, my particular focus is on the educational system, those that are teaching our kids or in the classroom, and those who are making healthcare decisions for people. I don't want the bias and those who are celebrating the murder of a political class, a political side that they don't agree with. They should not be making medical decisions for others, and they should not be indoctrinating our kids. We look at Tyler Robinson, 22-year-old kid who has.
All right, guys, I think I'm gonna cut it here. It's been a lengthy video. It's over 50 minutes. So, guys, I want you guys to give me your feedback on this video. What's your thoughts? And Nancy Mace and Lucas, what do you think about the debate? What they were saying? Do you agree with Lucas, Amazing Lucas, or do you agree with Nancy Mace? Please hit me up in the comment section, and please hit the like and subscribe. Remember again, please subscribe, help me to grow the channels, guys, and I appreciate you. Catch you in the next one.